Welcome to our guide on lesson planning for English language teachers. In this guide, we will cover the importance of lesson planning, the basic elements of a good lesson plan, and how to plan for both language acquisition and language practice. We will also provide a sample lesson plan to give you an idea of how all of these elements can come together. So why is lesson planning so important? Well, to put it simply, a good lesson plan is like a roadmap. It helps you stay on track during your class and make sure that you hit all of the important points that you want to cover. A well-planned lesson also keeps you from getting too far off topic or straying from the goals that you have set for your students. In addition, a good lesson plan can be a valuable tool for new teachers. It can help you organize your thoughts and materials in advance, which will make it easier to stay calm and focused when you are in front of your class. And if you ever need to substitute another teacher at short notice, a well-crafted lesson plan can be a lifesaver. There are many reasons why lesson planning is important for teachers. Perhaps the most important reason is that it helps ensure that learning objectives are met. A well-planned lesson will typically have a clear focus and purpose and will be organized in a way that helps students achieve the desired outcome. Another reason why lesson planning is so important is that it allows teachers to be more efficient and effective in their instruction. By taking the time to plan ahead, teachers can save themselves a lot of time and effort in the long run. Additionally, planning ahead can help teachers avoid last-minute scrambling and potential mistakes. Finally, lesson planning is also beneficial for students. When students know what to expect from a lesson, they can be more engaged and motivated to learn. Additionally, a well-planned lesson can help reduce stress for both students and teachers alike. When it comes to planning a lesson, there are certain elements that every teacher should consider in order to ensure that the lesson is effective and engaging. Here are some of the basic elements of a lesson plan. 1. Objectives. What do you want your students to learn from the lesson? What skills do you want them to practice? Be specific and realistic in your objectives. 2. Materials. What materials will you need for the lesson? This could include books, worksheets, props, etc. Make sure you have everything you need before the lesson begins. 3. Procedure. This is a step-by-step guide of what will happen during the lesson. Include everything from how you will introduce the topic to how you will wrap up at the end. 4. Assessment. How will you know if your students have achieved the objectives of the lesson? This could be through a quiz, writing assignment, or oral presentation. 5. Tips. These are general tips that can help you with planning and teaching the lesson. For example, consider ways to make the material more engaging for your students or ways to accommodate different learning styles. When planning for language acquisition, it is important to keep in mind the ultimate goal of the lesson, which is for students to be able to understand and use the target language. To achieve this, the lesson should be designed so that students are exposed to as much of the target language as possible. This can be done through various activities, such as listening to audio recordings, reading texts, or watching videos. It is also important to provide opportunities for students to practice using the target language through speaking and writing activities. By providing a variety of activities that expose students to the target language and give them opportunities to practice using it, they will be more likely to acquire the language. When planning for language practice, it is important to consider the various ways that students can practice using the language. Some of the most common and effective methods include: 1. Repetition. Repeating words and phrases aloud is a great way for students to memorize new vocabulary and grammar rules. It also helps them to become more comfortable with using the language. 2. Role-playing. This is a fun way for students to practice using the language in realistic situations. By acting out different scenarios, they can get a better feel for how the language is used in everyday life. 3. Writing. Writing in the target language is a great way for students to consolidate what they have learned and to practice using the grammar rules they have learned. 4. Reading. Reading material in the target language is a great way for students to expand their vocabulary and to become familiar with how the language is used in different contexts. In this section, we will put all of the elements of lesson planning together to create a complete and effective lesson plan for an English language class. This example lesson plan will focus on teaching the present simple tense. Before beginning, it is important to choose a topic that is appropriate for the level of the students. For this example, we will assume that the students are beginners. With that in mind, let's begin planning our lesson. The first step is to come up with a goal or objectives for the lesson. What do you want your students to be able to do by the end of the class? In this case, we want our students to be able to use the present simple tense correctly and confidently in speaking and writing. Next, we need to decide what activities we will use to help our students reach the goal or objectives. For this lesson, we might use some combination of these activities: a grammar explanation and practice activity, a speaking activity in which students use the present simple tense, a writing activity in which students use the present simple tense, a game or other fun activity to review what was learned. Now that we have our activities planned, we need to think about how we will introduce the topic and lead into the first activity. We also need to decide how we will transition between activities and how we will conclude the lesson. For this example, we might do something like this. Introduction. Teacher explains that in today's class, they will be learning about the present simple tense. The teacher then asks if anyone can give an example of when they would use the present simple tense. After a few student examples, the teacher explains that the present simple tense is used to talk about habits, routines, and general truths. When it comes to language teaching, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. The best way to ensure that your students are getting the most out of your lessons is to plan them carefully, taking into account the specific needs and abilities of your students. With a little thought and preparation, you can create lesson plans that will help your students learn more effectively and enjoy their time in class.